In an ambitious global environment, it is important for businesses to achieve competitive advantages that can enable their organizations to earn better than average returns. Competitive advantages can be achieved by possession of important assets, control of natural resources, or economies of scale. The pattern, however, is increasingly coming to favor those organizations that can mobilize knowledge and technological skill and experience to create novelty in their offerings and in the ways in which they create and deliver those offerings. This novelty is the result of innovation in product, process, position, or paradigm. Innovation, therefore, is driven by the ability to see connections, to spot opportunities, and to take advantage of them. In essence, innovation is about bringing something new into the world, an idea, a behavior, or an object. Noted sociologist William Ogburn introduced the word innovation into the American lexicon in the 1920s and developed a comprehensive theory of innovation. This comprehensive theory addresses innovation in ideas, things, and behaviors, not only technology, and it covers three dimensions. These include the origins or sources of invention and its development, its diffusion and use, and its effects or impacts on culture and society. Innovation, however, is not simply a process of producing new products or opening new markets, but includes finding new ways to serve existing markets and revamp existing products by introducing something simpler and cheaper to meet a very different set of needs. Essentially, some novelty outside or at the fringes of the mainstream. Innovation management is the practice of managing new and creative ideas. This means firms need to address multiple determinants at distinct levels, from the individual to the organizational, in order to enhance their open innovation management. For instance, Procter & Gamble improved its innovation management capability by setting up dedicated organizational structures and establishing incentives for employees who initiated innovation efforts. The introduction of change or novelty has very little to do directly with technology. Instead, innovation relates to three processes of change: cultural change, technological change, and social change. In fact, no one can study innovation who is not interested in change, since innovation is about bringing something new into the world, an idea, a behavior, or an object. In the post-industrial world, innovation includes two major dimensions: mental and material. William Ogburn pointed out that the use of material things is a very important part of the culture of any people, and culture grows by means of innovation and diffusion of the resultant inventions. Innovation, however, frequently encounters resistance that leads to delays or lags in adoption and adjustment of adaptive culture or social institutions. It is important for managers, therefore, to be cognizant of the lags in adoption in order to properly set expectations regarding the diffusion of new inventions. One of the key issues in innovation management is mapping an organization's innovation space. An organization's marketing space is defined as their marketing mix, that is a set of variables normally referred to as the 4 P's of product, price, place, and promotion. The 4 P's of innovation include product, process, position, and paradigm innovation. Each of these 4 P's of innovation can take place along an axis running from incremental change to radical change. Consequently, managers must pay attention to the degree of innovation involved and its impact on the organization. Minor changes refer to innovations like those introduced in automobiles each year. Consumers expect such changes and are often disappointed if they do not materialize. Incremental improvements refer to innovations like those introduced in consumer electronics and computer software. Radical changes produce a discontinuous shift, that is, something completely new or a response to dramatically changed conditions. Often these types of innovations produce disruptive conditions, like the change in culture produced by innovations such as the printing press, AC power, the transatlantic telegraph cable, the telephone, electric light, the computer, satellite communications, and electronic commerce. In addition, radical innovations may introduce unforeseen changes in demand that the organization is unprepared to handle. For instance, when IBM introduced their personal computer in 1981, demand was forecasted to be about 300,000 units for the life of the product. Within a year of its introduction, however, demand for the IBM PC was as high as 250,000 units per month. Another important key innovation management issue is whether or not to have an opened or closed innovation perspective. Most industrial-era companies pursued relatively closed innovation strategies, meaning limited interactions with the outside environment. Open innovation, on the other hand, is innovation processes in which firms interact extensively with their environment, leading to a significant amount of external knowledge exploration and exploitation. A major challenge of innovation management is to accumulate and deploy knowledge resources in a strategically effective fashion. For instance, an organization could sell knowledge as a product. The knowledge produced by an organization through its R&D activities is a valuable commodity that could be applied internally to produce new innovations or to be sold as an end product itself. Or the organization could use the knowledge exclusively for internal purposes. The decision to sell knowledge or use it internally largely depends on whether the organization has an open or closed innovation perspective. An open perspective typically involves building cooperative alliances with other organizations to share knowledge in order to defray costs and build synergy in the innovation process. Knowledge resources include both intrinsic and explicit knowledge. Intrinsic knowledge is typically acquired through a master-apprentice relationship. Explicit knowledge, on the other hand, is formally documented and codified, being recorded in drawings, formal procedure documents, research reports, and manuals. In a small, closed innovation R&D organization, intrinsic knowledge creation may be acceptable. But for an organization with an open innovation perspective, explicit knowledge creation is important to the process of collaborative knowledge transfer. In addition, firms increasingly maintain knowledge outside their organizational boundaries over time, and this dynamic perspective points to an interorganizational relationship as an extension of the firm's internal knowledge base. Therefore, it is important for managers to maintain external knowledge relationships. External knowledge relationships include alliances with trading partners, universities, independent laboratories, and government agencies. An important consideration of innovation management is managing knowledge processes. Most medium-sized and large firms simultaneously make and buy in knowledge exploration, integrate and relate in knowledge retention, and keep and sell in knowledge exploitation. Knowledge exploration refers to finding sources of knowledge. Internal knowledge exploration describes the generation of new knowledge inside the firm. External knowledge exploration describes knowledge sourcing from external partners. Knowledge retention refers to the retention of knowledge within the firm. Internal knowledge retention results from the need to store knowledge over time, whereas external knowledge retention relates to knowledge that is maintained in a firm's interorganizational relationships, such as strategic alliances. Knowledge exploitation relates to the commercialization of technological knowledge. Internal knowledge exploitation refers to the internal application of knowledge in a firm's own products. External knowledge exploitation refers to outward knowledge transfer, such as technology licensing. To successfully manage these activities, companies need to develop relevant organizational capabilities at the firm level. Innovation in a global environment presents unique problems and opportunities for post-industrial organizations. Managers that successfully control their firm's innovation activities recognize that innovation can help give their firms a distinct competence, enabling it to provide goods and services better than competitors. Due to the increase in firms' worldwide exposure, managers have become acutely aware that globalism creates a perception of urgency in the need to respond to consumer demand and competitive pressures. In addition, as economies globalize, opportunities for the mobility of knowledge workers and knowledge seekers across borders has increased. Therefore, managers must provide adequate incentives to their knowledge workers in order to retain their services and loyalty. Producing innovations in a global environment is a fast-paced process, and it is difficult for an organization to bear the costs, acquire adequate resources, and attract skilled researchers by itself. Consequently, successful firms will employ networking and collaboration to acquire the fundamental knowledge necessary to provide practical innovations in an expeditious manner. As we have discussed, innovation is more than simply coming up with new ideas. It is the process of growing them into practical use. But in order to develop an organization that has a successful innovation perspective, managers need to complete the development and exploitation aspects of new knowledge, not just its invention. Successful innovation managers will transform their organizations to operate with a process of sustained growth through continuous invention and adaptation, thereby enabling the firm to achieve above average rates of return.